Hello, video on demand people. If indeed we are live, I may have caught that it may have gone. It takes different numbers of seconds between clicking go live in OBS before you go live in Twitch versus when you go live on YouTube. YouTube's weird. I've never really understood the weird way it sort of requires you to. Well, I guess they changed it. They changed it so it works more like Twitch now. Hope everybody's having a great Saturday. Where's Lexi? Duroc put a link to it. We will drop it in the thing of stuff. What's up, David Heingartner? Welcome to the show. Guten Abend. Tigerman 1211, traditional elven greetings. It's going great. Alexia Grind, I hope you're doing well. 22 Faces, hello, welcome to the show. Dog, hello, hi. Hello, Artisanal Brand. What did I watch? I watched, because in memoriam of Terrence Stamp, who I've seen in a bunch of things, but I didn't feel like I really knew him as an actor because a lot of them were weird. Like Superman, you can't tell how is he as an actor based on Zod, for instance, basically a cartoon character. But watching, I loved him in The Limey. He's great in The Limey, and I was like, I should watch some old Terrence Stamp movies or whatever. So I added Far From the Madding Crowd on my watch list. But I got the Criterion collection of The Hit, which is a movie I had never heard of. And it's right up my alley. It's a 80s British neo-noir crime drama, also a bit of a road movie, with Terrence Stamp in the lead and John Hurt and Tim Roth's first movie. I'm like, how did I not know about this film? Stephen Frears, love Stephen Frears. And it was really, really interesting. I liked it. I don't know if, it didn't knock my socks off, right? It's more... He did not, but maybe I should watch it again. It's sort of a road movie in a weird way, and it actually has a lot in common. It's funny because I love Sexy Beast, brilliant fucking film, and Sexy Beast is basically sort of like a remake of The Hit, kinda. And I'm like, wow, how did I not know this movie existed? And it felt like improvised. I had no idea what was going to happen on a moment-to-moment basis, and that's really rare for me as a film goer. But we don't need to talk about movies. We can talk about whatever is on you folks' minds. Is that Jeff on? What's up, Jeff on? What's up, Jeff on? I hope you're doing well. It looks like that's actually Jeff. I mean, obviously it is actually Jeff, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's Jeff, born on the 19th of Jeff, 19 Jeff to Jeff. Connor Perez says, Draw Steel is amazing. We are very glad you think so. We worked really hard on it for a long time. Yeah. Oh, what happened to music? Hang on a minute. Oh, and this one, it's the same mix, but for some reason they cut off the DJ, so I have to do it manually. Bonobo. There we go. Well, here it's doing that. YouTube's doing that thing again where it wants to jump down. It wants to jump down to the live part of chat where I am still actually this is why I'm a bad streamer, because I actually read all the comments in chat. I don't read them out. I don't answer them. Draw Steel tomorrow, says Colin Deal. Draw Steel Sunday. John Broadwell, can you repeat everything I said? Yes, video on demand, The Limey, Sexy Beast, The Hit, Tim Roth, Terrence Stamp. There you go, done. Oh, Argyle Audio really appreciated my take on multiclassing in the latest design vid. Yeah, it's annoying as F. It's very annoying. It drove us crazy. And it's one of the things that I found really interesting is that, and this is, I think, an important lesson for everybody who's certainly in this chat or watching this video, because you are by definition online. Like, if you just took the discourse online in various forums and subreddits and social media threads at face value, you would conclude that multiclassing was like super important, right? Because the people who really get into multiclassing, the Venn diagram of people who love multiclassing and sort of need it to engage with 5th edition. And the people who are very online talking about D&D it's not a circle, but there's a lot of overlap. So it's an important lesson for anybody who is interested in the hobby outside their own little table. When you go online, the folks talking about the game often are having a very different experience than the normal person at a normal table who does not spend a ton of time online talking about the game. Usually in any group of gamers, and this is, I think, Wizards of the Coast has data about this. In any given group of gamers, there's usually like one person who's the one that's very online and sort of brings all the latest goss or product information, to the table. There's one person who's like, there's going to be a expansion for this, and everybody goes, oh, I can't wait. And they all love getting together and playing games, but one of them goes online and does a bunch of research and stuff. And so you can't take things at face value when it comes to the online discourse, because if you did, you would think the multi-classing was like the most important thing, or certainly one of them. It is not. It is a very boutique experience. It is, I think, technically an optional rule in 5th edition, but don't try telling that to people who are talking about it online. And I saw one comment. There was no great it was one comment, folks, from somebody saying, well, the people who like multi-classing, the reason they like it is because it's the only way to customize your character. And I was like, well, that's not true. There's a million ways to customize your character. In every edition of D&D that had multi-classing, they could have cut it, and there would still be a ton of ways. There would still be a ton of ways to customize your character: feats, subclasses, what ancestry you pick. You could make an infinite number of characters, all of which you would enjoy playing, and you would never run out. And that's where it starts to get like, come on, what are we doing here? Excuse me. Well, up. See, it wants to jump around. Excuse me. I hope you're all caught up on Alien Earth in case I suddenly start spouting theories about what the hell's going on. I don't care what happens. There's one episode left. I don't care what happens. Any of these people, it doesn't matter to me. I want to be surprised like anybody else, but if Mr. Eyeball goes out like a punk, I will be very sad. I'll be very upset. Dima Jadar says, Homebrewing for Draw Steel is so much fun that they already work on more stuff that they ever made for D&D. Work on more stuff than I ever made for D&D. I'm really curious. I've seen that sentiment a lot. I don't think we did anything. I don't remember any deliberate thrust in our development focusing on making sure it was easy and fun to homebrew for, other than we're designers and we want to enjoy working on our own game, right? So if we ever washed up on the shores of some design that would threaten that and make it hard for us to have fun working on our own game, we would not have done it. But I'm really curious what there is about Draw Steel that makes it easier or more fun to develop for, to invent new stuff for, than 5e. I completely believe you. I also watched the John Williams documentary, Juliet. I thought it's more of a hagiography, I think, obviously, but frankly, I don't mind that. I was just talking to my significant other, and I said that I watched the Jim Henson documentary, which was like 2 years ago. Ron Howard directed it. And it's just been a long time since I thought about the Muppets. That's all. Been a long time since I thought about the Muppets. And I cried a couple of times in it because of the overwhelming wave of both emotion and memory that hit me, remembering how much a part of my life the Muppets were. Like looking forward to the Muppet Show every, I think, Sunday night before I went to school the next day. And it being a big part of like the Sesame Street, all that stuff. The Muppet movie was like the first movie I remember where I walked out of the movie and I knew all the songs. I could just sing all the songs. And my mom, like, we were back at the house and she's doing dishes and she's like, do we have the album? She wanted to listen to it. She thought maybe somebody got it for me for a birthday or Christmas. I'm like, what album? And she's like, how do you know all these songs? I'm like, what do you mean? How do I know them? You were in the same movie I was in. And so watching that and just being overwhelmed. And I remember texting, this is just like a couple days ago, my significant other, and I said, any truly civilized society would have made that dude a saint. They would have been like, look, all he wanted to do. Anyway. Oh, Stephen Hogerl loves Draw Steel. So do we. So do I. Your favorite thing is the War Dogs and the Body Banks. Yeah, isn't it interesting? Well, I think you're going to we definitely have an adventure for you coming up. It's definitely, I think, fuck, man, it's going to be, I really, 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 really want to run it for a lot of people. We're working on a lot of adventures right now. We think adventure content is really critical to helping the community kind of supercharge what everybody's doing. And yeah, the War Dogs are one of the coolest things in Draw Steel. There are sort of our signature premier villain, party, bad guy, band, horde, whatever you want to call it. There's a great post from Jason, our art director, on our Patreon talking about all the research he did, and he went to a war museum in France and took all these photographs of the costumes and stuff, and just kind of honing in on what he wanted these guys to look like. If you're interested in this stuff, you notice it. If you don't, you just take it at face value. But the helmets, I think, are like World War I German helmets, but the uniforms and the epaulets are like Napoleonic. I think it's a really brilliant synthesis of a couple of different eras of, kind of European warfare. And I just love the War Dogs. We were watching on Twitch. I loved this. This is so awesome. We were watching on Twitch, and I saved these as highlights, and I don't know if we're going to keep doing, because we've already done a bunch. The original series of Star Trek, and there's a lot of reasons for that, one of which is a lot of people in my Twitch community have never seen any of the original series, and I'm like, wow, shit's changed, man. Like, and of course, why not? Because now there's lots of Star Trek anybody can watch, and you can kind of pick your flavor. You can watch good Star Trek, you can watch bad Star Trek, but when I was coming up, Star Trek was really old. When I was a teenager, it was already super old, canceled before any of us were born. But every nerd had watched pretty much every episode of the original series of Star Trek, and we watched those original series episodes for a lot of reasons. One is, I don't know what order to put these in. That's why I'm prevaricating. But one of them is, I just don't like the modern vibes-based era of television, which is one of the reasons I don't really watch TV anymore, is that it's really hard, and it takes an enormous amount of discipline and tradition. You have to have generations of writers who have gotten really good at this and honed their craft, right, to tell a story in an hour. 55 minutes. It's really hard to do that. It's really hard to tell a good punchy story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a denouement where the credits roll and everybody goes, right? That's hard. That's hard to do. Much easier to just be like, whatever, man. Nothing really has to happen. It just has to be, we spend a lot of time with these characters, and there's a lot of suspense, and there's a couple of revelations. There's a couple of surprise revelations from the lab, right? And then at the end, just give them something that makes them go, oh, but what happens next? Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like General Hospital? Or, it's soap opera plotting. It's straight up soap opera plotting, except let's spend $100 million on the show, soap opera, right? Let's put xenomorphs in it, or, whatever in it. And I like it when shit happens. I like it when stuff resolves. I like it when, there's a couple of plot points and the state of the world changes, right? And I don't like getting to the end and going, well, that was pretty cool, but what about this, and what about this, and what about this, which happens all the time. I think really only Westworld in my memory, even the OG, True Detective, which I think kind of births all this, where they had like 1.5 movies worth of content, and they just padded the middle, and you're going in circles. They do that in Stranger Things every time. They just go in circles, and I'm like, we already know all this. What is going on here? I don't. And so I said, let's spend some time, because I think this is obviously very self-indulgent, but I also think there's a point. We as directors, game masters, dungeon masters, whatever you want to call it, the Hollyhock God, we are much, much better served by being inspired by classic TV with a beginning, a middle, and an end, especially in an hour. That's really close to a short adventure, folks. That's like a short adventure. And the things you learn studying these hour-long dramas about characterization, about what makes good villains, what makes good tension, right? How do they resolve that tension, right? Oh, look, there's a subtext. Great, awesome. You learn so much as storytellers, as dungeon masters. It's really, really useful. But also, I have sort of a personal agenda, which is I don't like the way the culture did James Kirk bad, right? Like, there was just a collective decision in the 80s, led by a bunch of stand-up comics, that Kirk is actually a womanizing Lothario, when he is literally the opposite. He is literally the opposite. He is obsessed with duty and responsibility, and his responsibility to the crew and the ship, and so that's a big part of it. And I bring all this up because we watched the first episode with the Klingons, where you get to meet John Colicos, who's a great actor, really good actor, and just was so good at playing villains. I don't know that he ever got to do anything else in TV. He was a great theater actor for many years, had a great career on the stage. So, that's fine. He doesn't have to, he can just go earn a lot of money playing bad guys and then do what he loves. But he's playing the first Klingon. I didn't say this. I didn't even think of it. But as we're all kind of like reveling in how good he is as a bad guy, and just not just keep in mind that he's just reading what's on the page, folks. The writers imagined this character and they wrote some brilliant dialogue for him, and the thing between him and Kirk especially after coming off the submarine episode, which has a kind of similar thing going on with Kirk and the bad guy. And somebody goes, as soon as John Colicos is done introducing himself and like being capriciously cruel and snidely whiplash, mustache twirling villain, somebody goes, that's a war dog. And I was like, oh yeah, oh my God. That's absolutely a war dog, yes. Have I given any thought in the last few years about making a card game with telling stories in the same way as Legend of the Five Rings? Yeah, I think about it all the time. I've thought about that probably once a month since 1995, probably. I don't know what the landscape. One of the things that so we're working on a bunch of games right now. Obviously, everybody here is working on Draw Steel, and we've got hopefully we end up. The game is doing super well, folks, and we're going to go to crowdfunding this December to fund the finish. We're already spending a lot of our own money on these adventures, on 2 new classes, on 8 new ancestries, I think I can say. And we're going to go to crowdfunding to bring them all to market, basically. And so there's going to be tons of Draw Steel content, and I hope that we get at least a good solid 7 years of tons of support for it. That's up to you folks, frankly. But we're also working on other games because we don't want to end up in a position where we have a big hit game and we spend all the money supporting that hit game, and then over time, of course, it's the long tail, and then eventually you can't do anything else. So we want to strike while the iron is hot. And CCG is not on the short list of those games, but I did do a prototype card game based on the Warfare game, based on Warfare from Kingdoms of Warfare, that folks here really liked. Jason, a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, our art director, he and Nick played it, and I demoed it for them, and they were, it was a 2-player game, and he wouldn't shut up about it. He loved it. He's like, the only problem with this game is it's not sci-fi. And I'm like, how well, interesting you say that. And it was not a collectible card game. It was just a card game. It was a card game, and it came out of our general manager in the depths of Kingdoms and Warfare fuckery, coming to me and showing me a box, like basically the size of Epic Spell Battles, or code names or whatever, a box about this thick, about this big. He goes, Matt, if you could put a game that just used cards, maybe some dice, that's fine, and it fit in this box, that would be great, right? Because all he's doing is he's calculating shipping costs and freight and logistics and how much it costs to print a book. And he's like, wow, cards are way easier, right? And I went, okay. And I accepted that challenge, and I took the Warfare system, turned it into a game. And the fact that Jason, who is an inveterate board game player, he's and a war gamer, he's played tons, he's spent more money on unpainted Warhammer minis than I have on modular synthesis. And that's a lot. And so him getting really engaged with it and really liking with it made me think, and so, but one of the problems is, and one of the reasons I'm not like, hey man, let's make a collectible card game, and let's do something like, let's try to recapitulate that Legend of the Five Rings type of storytelling, is that I don't play collectible card games anymore. I play board games. I still play miniature games. I play lots of stuff. We still have game night every week. But I don't know anything about that landscape anymore. And I was talking to a friend of mine who is now ensconced at Paizo, and he's like, collectible card games are huge, man. I'm like, oh. And so that's a long way of saying, nope. No, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. And I had an idea for a science fiction card game that would be basically like Twilight Imperium, but a card game. Although this was probably 15 years before Twilight Imperium came out. And it would be very, very like L5R/Dune, where there'd be like, you would have 2 decks, right? You'd have your Senate deck and I don't know what it would be exactly. And I started thinking about that. So it's not impossible, but it just seems like it's going to be, that would be years away if it ever happens. Derelict first. derelict my balls. Excuse me. Benjamin Conrads thinks the Project Respite system, or respite, I pronounce it respite, I don't know why I pronounce it that way, is one of the greatest GM aids for managing campaigns and player motivation. Bro, Benjamin Kennard, let me tell you, it's crazy. I was just talking to our general manager about the big super adventure that we're working on right now called Crack the Sun, which if you don't know about Crack the Sun, I'll show you what we think the cover is going to look like. And we're trying to figure out, does Crack the Sun go in this next crowdfunder? And that a lot of that has to do with when is it going to be done compared to everything else. Like if everything else is done here and Crack the Sun's done way over here, that creates some logistical nightmares if they're all part of the same crowdfunder. So if Crack the Sun's going to come out on this date and everything else is going to be around this date, maybe this should have its own crowdfunder. And we were just walking to the burger place across the street, and I was like, yeah, well, that sucks though, because we're not even yet at the outlining phase. We're still breaking the story. We're still going act by act and trying to break down the story to the point where we can outline it. So it's going to be a million years before we know like what the page count's going to be or anything like that. And then I stopped and I went, hang on a minute, that's not true, because we know it's 16 victories to level up, actually. Right? So if each of these acts, at 5 acts, is one level, that means each one's 16 victories. And we already have tons of data on about how many pages that should be, because we've got 4 or 5 adventures either finished or that we're working on. Right? So we should be able to go do some logistics and say, okay, how many pages is a victory / a level right now without even knowing anything about the outline. And that won't be perfectly accurate. It's not science, but that's going to be, that's we could definitely make a Fermi approximation with that data. So it's really cool knowing that if you want to design an adventure, and this is what we do internally. If you want to design your own adventure for Draw Steel and you think it should be about a level, that's 16 victories. And guess what? You probably want a montage in there. James ran a montage in Cry Havoc, which I stream on Twitch on Wednesdays when we play. Cry Havoc is the game he's running for us on the dev team. And he ran a montage test, and because of one result, there was an encounter in a montage test. And I went, I was like, oh my God. And it really made me, I already love montage tests, and he improv'd this montage test, and I could tell, but in spite of the fact that it was improv'd, as we were rolling and using our imagination, I was building this epic scene in my head. Like I was watching a movie of what was happening, and it was just as good as any montage test. And then having an encounter in the middle of it, I really felt like suddenly I had an extraordinarily powerful tool for kind of improvising and running adventures by blending encounters, negotiations, and montage tests together. Because that encounter could have been a negotiation, couldn't it? Yeah, absolutely. And it was really, really cool. And just knowing that if you want to make it a level, that's 16 encounters. So montage test, there you go. Probably that's one of them. Probably a negotiation in there somewhere. It'd be weird if there wasn't. I mean, it would be weird just a normal everyday fantasy adventure if you go an entire level without ever wanting to negotiate with somebody. And we've given you tools, so there you go. And that's now you're down to 14 victories. And then you probably want 2 or 3 hard battles, right? And those are 2 each, so it's 2, 4, 6, right? So now we're down to like 8 victories. So that's like 8 normal encounters, and there you go. You just made an entire. And 8 adventures. The 8 encounters might be a lot. But you can double up on some of these, but it's a whole level. And that means if you want to have a short, punchy, we call them quests. We're working on a couple of these. That's like a third of a level, because you want to give your player something that's a very, very fast, quick beginning, middle, end. You can do in like 2 sessions, maybe 3. Well, that would be what's, a third of 16. It's, 5-ish victories, 5-ish encounters, and that's a quest. And those metrics are, I just think, incredibly useful and powerful, and they make it it makes making adventures just seem a lot more straightforward. Oh, look, all I have to do is fill in these things. I just have to come up with a bunch of those, and there you go. And that's a quest, and do 3 of those, and that's a level. Anyway. Excuse me, pardon me. Is there a region of Orden suitably similar to the Caribbean? Oof, not that we've been to yet. There was a big discussion about this on the Discord the other day in the Timescape channel, and people were repeating things I've already said, which is nice, so I don't have to do it. But then I jumped in and I started talking about how I have long suspected that when you look at the map of Orden, that what you're looking at is the northern hemisphere, and that there's an entire southern hemisphere that probably has like an ocean around it. So there's, with a lot of Coriolis winds going, don't know how that works, given that there's some natural force of weather that would prevent ships from easily being able to cross that boundary. Not impossible, but difficult, and probably very, very difficult, nearly impossible to go there and back again. again, so to speak. And that opens up all the stuff that I've never done. I've never done like an Africa analog. I've never done a Mediterranean there's Phaedros, which is Greek, but it's not Greek. It's like if Greece happened in Spain, right? It's a peninsula. It's not this huge series of islands. So yes, but we don't know anything about it. The Minotaur Tavern in East Austin. That's awesome. Well, wait until, Michelle E., wait until the books come out. I'm now 20 minutes behind on chat. Wait until the physical books come out, which is going to happen maximally soon. The physical books will start shipping. And then it's going to be a lot more. You'll be able to, they're huge, by the way. Especially if you get, like if you got the limited edition ones, they're massive. It's a really nice, high quality paper. Yeah, and it's there. Okay, so I'm back at the. It's done that thing where it doesn't want me to be late on chat. What's up, Finland? Jacob Cooper is a better person than I am. Jacob Cooper says that they're going to ask their players if they want to keep playing D&D or they want to switch to Draw Steel. I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever. I'm like, hey, I'm running this. Are you around Thursday? I'm running Draw Steel. You in? I heard yes. See you Thursday, right? And you'd be surprised at how many of my best friends were harvested using that method, like Lars and Austin. Or I only knew this person a little, but I'm a divvy when it comes to people who aren't tabletop nerds but should be. I absolutely have an unerring sense for this, right? And so, like my friend Austin, I'm like, hey, we're going to be playing. I don't remember what it was. Probably D&D. We're going to be playing D&D game night this Wednesday. Are you in? I heard yes. See you there. And he was like, and he and I were like best friends for 10 years. Yeah, they don't get a vote. Of course, they're your friends. Why would you say that? Why would you not give them a vote? Well, because this isn't a democracy. This is a dictatorship, and I'm in charge. That's not literally true, but I think that it's a player often. I think this is literally true. Often, like, players don't want to be asked what they want. They want you to be enthusiastic about something. And you ask them what they want, and they're like, I don't know. What do you mean? None of this was my idea. Well, Just Plain Edgy says, the Seattle company didn't do the work for the average Joe DM. You did. They're talking about us. Well, you haven't seen anything yet. Wait till you see the Encounters book. The Encounters book is the third hardcover, and it's going to be part of the crowdfunder, and a huge, big chunks of it will be done by the time we go to crowdfunding in December. We want to get it to you fast. We want to get the PDF to you really quickly. The Encounters book is literally nothing except pre-made junk for your game, right? We already did it. We already did the work. You just drop it in. So there's going to be like 20 different NPCs you can negotiate with, and they each get a little headshot, a little piece of art, a little bit of backstory. Who is this person? Like Duncan, the captain of the guard, right? The captain of the Baron's guard. And here's a picture of him, and here is his, we want to go talk to the Baron, or whatever. The captain of the guard can be a lock behind which is a lot of content, and you just need the key, and the negotiation rules are the key to that lock. And so we say, here's where his unique motivations are, here's how to run this negotiation, and then you can take that and say, well, Duncan isn't really a name in my world. My world has normal fantasy nonsense, so I'm going to replace this with a string of random syllables and a bunch of apostrophes, but otherwise, this is exactly what I need. Like, we don't know why you need a captain of the guard, but everybody needs one sooner or later, right? So it's not an adventure or anything like that. It's just a dude or this leader or this frog person, and here's why you're going to need to talk to them, or you figure out why you need to talk to them, and we just made a really specific person you can grab and drop into your campaign. Here's like 20, maybe more different montage tests already done. So here's, you want to navigate a swamp? Great. This is a unique swamp with unique challenges that we invented that you can just file the serial numbers off. Well, my swamp isn't called that. But I do have a swamp called this, right? Great. Just change the name and it's done. And here's a bunch of drop-in delves from Dungeon Delve, like three room dungeons, or really small, compact 3 victory points or 4 victory point little combat encounters, just a string of combat encounters with cool maps, really short and punchy, that you can drop into an adventure you're already running, and there'll be 1 or 2 for 10 levels. So yeah, and then what else? There's like a whole bunch of unique skill tests that we've invented, taking the skills in the game. I don't know if we're doing this with every skill, that's up to James. Taking the skills in the game and fleshing them out. So it's like, okay, what does what does a really hard climb skill look like, given that there's a bunch of different failure and success states, easy, medium, and hard. What easy climb test, medium climb test, hard climb test? Give me specific versions of these, right? Climbing a crumbling tower. Okay, I can use that. Maybe it's not a crumbling tower, maybe it's a crumbling wall, maybe whatever, but that's enough for me to modify. And here are the unique results that we came up with to make it easier for you to run skill tests. And maybe even more stuff that we haven't really talked about yet, just in the Encounters book. Literally, it's not the sexiest book. That's what we talk about. We talk about Crack the Sun is maybe the one thing that's going to make everybody go, oh, and that drives crowdfunding. You know, people going, oh my, are you serious? But the Encounters book is the 356-page hardcover book 3 that is going to be incredibly high utility value, just not very sexy. So we'll see what happens. But that's because we think about directors and players and how to make them happy. Excuse me. Hachukin. Well, from your text to the universe's reality. I would love that. Anders Ehrman Jensen. That makes me very happy. Yeah. People routinely are astonished at how much fun playing Draw Steel at first level is. Why shouldn't it be fun? Why should you have to wait? Session 5 of the Delian Tomb, Falchion RPG. Good luck. Rise, Heroes, Rise. Welcome to the show. Crazy Player. It's hard not to have PC ideas, I hope. When you go through the book and start thinking about characters. People really seem to like the Draw Steel class guide, by the way. Looking at the engagement, it was excellent. It was really good. It doesn't get as many views as a D&D video. Duh. Right? But it gets a shitload of views for a non-D&D video that I would make. Occasionally throw in, and you'll see more and more of these just in the next couple months. More and more non-RPG videos, just me talking about various things. I used to do like every 50,000 subscribers, I would do a video just celebrating I got more subscribers. Let's talk about other YouTubers I follow. And I stopped doing that a long time ago, like 150,000, 200,000 subscribers ago. And I want to get back to doing that because there's a ton of YouTubers that I love, and I feel like if you don't have curated discovery, if you don't have other people, you follow this YouTuber, you follow the Hoof GP. Well, what does the Hoof GP watch? I bet there's something you'd be interested in there somewhere. Even though it probably doesn't have anything to do. That guy probably doesn't watch any fucking farmyard technology videos because that's his life. Anyway, don't let me forget that we're going to check out Titancraft. That's a big thing. We were screwing around with it last night. And I was like, oh, there were bits I would go, oh, look at this. And everyone's like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, okay, we have to stop. I want the folks on YouTube to see some of the discovery. What's the stance on people who own the PDF of Draw Steel sharing them with their group? I mean, what do you think my stance is? That. I apologize, Alex the First. I don't mean to call you out, but to me, that's a ridiculous question. God of Spaghetti, I'm glad you like the Troubadour. Like I said, it is one of the things I'm proudest of in a game that I have a lot of pride feeling of. Sentences, how do they work? But the Troubadour was one of those things where I'm like, come on, doesn't everybody know what the best this is? I really felt like this, although I didn't say it. Doesn't everybody know what the best version of a bard / Troubadour would be? Why do we screw around with all this weird junk? Come on, let's just do it. Let's just really do it and do our best. And everybody on the team was super excited. We all pulled together, and I was really lucky that we got to work with Willie and Jordy. I think Willie was the guy behind the Troubadour, and I get really picky when it comes to the names and presentation of abilities. And I always think there's a better version out there. You may see a Draw Steel 2.0 at some point in the distant future where all these abilities get polished passes because there's no amount of testing that substitutes for 40,000 people suddenly, 40,000 groups of people suddenly having the book and playing it and giving feedback. But the one thing I didn't mess with was the names of the songs, because I was like, you know what? Willie had something in his mind. He heard a tune. Maybe these are references to real world songs. I don't know. They would be if I were writing it, but Willie's a really creative dude. And so I was like, I'm not going to mess with these at all. I have no idea what Thunder Mother is supposed to sound like or which syllable the emphasis goes on. I don't need to know. Willie does, so it goes in. Willie has a really distinctive sense of humor, and when that sense of humor aligns with content in the book, like the Troubadour, like the I almost said the Ratcrobat, but that's the Raiden Whites, then every time you get a home run. But that being said, sense of humor is great, but chops. I'll take chops every time. And Willie's work on the Summoner, I don't really care about awards. We already have the only awards that matter as far as I'm concerned. And honestly, I think all awards, all trade awards, trade show awards, like the Oscars, like like Gamma Trade Show, like Origin, whatever, all trade shows, the purpose of the awards is to shine a light on really well done products that didn't get recognized in the marketplace, right? If you were number one at the box office, you don't need an Oscar. Everybody already knows about your fucking movie, right? The purpose of a trade show is we are all experts in this field. We're the ones actually doing the work, and we know that was a great product. But for whatever reason, the audience didn't follow. You're sitting here at the suitcase trade show, and they give awards for the best suitcases, and everybody there knows there was this one really brilliant suitcase that somebody made and no one bought it, and that's not their fault, so we're going to give them an award. And I genuinely believe that. I think that's what award shows are for. They're to shine a spotlight on shit that didn't get the marketplace award, which is sort of the only one that matters. And in that case, I'm like, why would we submit? I think, what would be the point of submitting Draw Steel? But ultimately, it's not up to me. There are people who like the opportunity for recognition and stuff like that. It might get them more work. It's probably going to be up to James. We'll probably talk about it. But if I were going to submit anything, it would be the Summoner. I think the Summoner is just brilliant design. It's so much fun to play, and it's such a challenging problem. And Willie just was like water, and went whoop and knocked it out of the park. The Summoner currently available on the Patreon. It will be available for real. Probably, I think, Black Friday, I think it's supposed to be. Yeah, exactly, Juliet. Yeah, the Oscars are for The Shape of Water, not the Avengers. Yeah. I enjoy checking out the Eisner Awards. The Eisner Awards are a great example because there's the stuff that everybody online is talking about because that's the hit comic. But then you go to the Eisner Awards and you go, these are all brilliant. Like, you could just read any of these and you'd be like, oh my God, this is a great comic. Only problem with the Summoner is everybody's going to want to play one. And if you have more than two in your party, you're going to have a bad time. That's probably true of most classes. We did not try to make Draw Steel fun. Here's a clip. We didn't try to make Draw Steel fun for groups that want to play all one class, because that's a pretty boutique fantasy and it makes it really hard to balance. But we did try to make sure it would support up to two of the same class in the party. So more than two Summoners ain't going to work. I mean, you could probably make it work. Oh, that's awesome, Jeffrey Rankin. My troubadour is a country singer who turned Ballad of the Beast into a tune about the beauty that done broke his heart. I love that. That's amazing. Faffing about, says Jay, with Titancraft, the slight adjustments on how it holds sword and board with the auto posing is amazing. Yeah. The folks at Titancraft, we'll get into it in a minute. The folks at Titancraft are awesome. We love them. They reached out to us. A lot of companies reach out to us. A lot of companies, including many that you have heard of, reach out to us because they want to work with us because they see us as occasionally, when there's a big crowdfunder or something like that, they're like, oh, everybody's paying attention to what this one company is doing. Great. And so we can always tell when the reason they're reaching out to us is because they think there's a way to make a quick buck and they have no real interest in what it is that we're doing. And often we see it's not a coincidence that often those companies, the kind of agreements they want to enter into seem really toxic to us. And you're like, why, how do you guys, how do you pay your employees with stuff like this? And they're people who run businesses and treat their employees very differently than we do. And so we like reaching out to people where we can tell they have the same philosophy we do. They really believe in the game or whatever it is, the product, the company, in this case, Draw Steel. They really believe in Draw Steel and think it's awesome and genuinely like it on their own merits. And they sort of treat their people the same way we treat ours. And so it's awesome hanging out with those folks and seeing their vision, because the Titancraft website, like I said, we'll play around with it in a minute, but damn, it's really cool. Were there ever moments where we hit a design wall of Freedom Panic? Yeah, all the time. I mean, yeah, all the time. I think we cataloged a lot of this on the Patreon. If there's we may someday, we'd be fools not to. We may someday do an art book where we have like a beautiful coffee table book, and a lot of the text in it's already written because it's on the Patreon. And probably one of them was the power roll. We spent a lot of time trying, like, kits was one of the design walls. How are we going to make, how do weapons and armor work in this stupid game? And we spent a lot of time iterating on a really cool system that I developed that I thought was awesome, but it became more and more obvious the more mature it became that it was not right for this game. And I'm like, what is, I need, so it took a long time in relative terms to come up with the idea of kits and break through. And I remember when it was movie night and my friend Tom came by, who plays Copper and Big Cat in the Chain. And I was saying what I need are like presets where you don't fine tune your equalizer. You just click rock, right? And it goes, and that's it. That's your, I might even use the term, that's your loadout. And the loadout is the thing you worry about, not the individual noodly bits inside it. And he was like, oh, you mean like this one thing from Marvel Midnight Suns? And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, they do this thing. And I'm like, oh my God, that's yes, that's it. And that's what I had described to him. I had said, this is what we plan on doing. But we hadn't tested it yet. We were just excited by the idea. And I think we were already calling them kits, right? We're just going to deal with presets, and you don't deal with what's inside. It doesn't matter whether, if it's a light weapon kit, what those light weapons are doesn't matter. This is not about the difference between a broadsword and a bastard sword, or, a dagger and a dirk, or whatever, or one dagger versus two daggers per se. It's just about the vibe, so to speak. And he was like, oh, and the fact that those guys who were also the XCOM guys, that they had hit upon the same idea made me think, oh, this is going to be a home run. This is totally going to work. But it took a long time to get there. The power roll took a long time to get there. James and I spent like an entire weekend after I had laid out everything the die roll needed to do. And this was after probably, I don't know, like a year of testing dice. Yeah. Just crunching on this and honing in on what we wanted the experience to be. And I made a list of all the things it needed to do. Basically, all of this huge burden that this one question mark die roll had to shoulder. It has to do this, and it has to do this, and it can't be like this, and it can't be like that. And we both agreed, yeah, that's true. Let's think about it. And I remember thinking, I was like falling asleep, and I was like, well, the only thing I can think of that'll do it is a chart. And I was like, that ain't going to work, because the only chart I could think of as soon as that popped into my head was Rollmaster. I'm like, well, ain't nobody going to put up with that. It's 2025, not 1985. And then like it was Monday morning, and I looked in the chat, and James was like, I think it's got to be a chart. And I was like, yeah, I think so too. And he goes, what if it were just boop? And it was basically, I think he had played, I don't remember that. Is it Powered by the Apocalypse? There's Blades in the Dark? One of those, if they're not the same thing. And I think they are. But I hadn't. But I played Epic Spell Battles, and I was like, that's the Epic Spell Battles chart. That's it. That's how we do it. It's a simple chart. It's always the same three numbers. So it's not, because you could imagine, right? Like, you can imagine that one person's chart or one power's chart might be, a tier 1 result might be this big, and a tier 3 result's this big. And another one, we're like, no, it's always got to be the same. So the players just know. They just know. 11 or less to tier 1. And I don't know that we were ever going to do it any other way, but that was important to me. So yeah, there were a couple times. And there's probably more that I'm not thinking of, but those are the two kind of canonical ones. Spamatron has been using Forged Steel, which is a free third-party character creator for Draw Steel, and they've made up to about 50 characters. That's awesome. Yeah, that guy's great. Yeah, and he's very responsive. Yeah, Spamatron, if you go into our Discord and you go, oh, I just found a bug with Forged Steel, like, that dude will fix it, like, probably with, like, certainly that day. Well, I say certainly, but often that day, and really quickly, typically. It's also super fun playing using the Codex, which is our proprietary VTT that we're developing, and we stream it on Wednesdays when we play Draw Steel, Cry Havoc, because sometimes the devs are watching us play. In fact, usually they're watching us play. And sometimes there'll be a bug. I can't fucking believe this. There'll be a bug that we find. And like 20, 45 minutes later, one of the devs is like, hey, just hit F5. And you hit F5 and it's fixed. I'm like, that's amazing. That's incredible. Conkabar, well, I suggest go to the Patreon. That's where I kept the diary so that I wouldn't have to remember. Excuse me. The Code 52, thanks for the kind words. Yeah, I think I'll be working on Fighter in October, and I think it might get done in October. Yeah, the cosmic die was really cool, and it might make it might come back to some game we work on somewhere. Vincius Castro says, which is more important, mechanical consistency across classes for ease of learning? Or I think ease of learning is doing a lot of, that phrase is doing a lot of work in that paragraph. Or radical mechanical diversity to ensure each class feels like a completely different game. If a class has something that is mechanically unique about it, then it needs to, in some way, obviously further the fantasy of the class, because that's what makes it easy to learn. Oh, of course it works this way, even though nothing else in this game works this way. Of course, this class has this unique thing in it. Like, of course, the conduit, your subclass is the two domains you pick. Of course, it works that way. How else would it work, right? And so that's different from all the other classes. The conduit doesn't have classic subclasses, but it's not unique in a weird way. It is leveraging stuff like it's just the same stuff you saw from the sensor, and now we're going to expand it and build upon it. So I would say that is the answer. It's not really a choose one over the other. It's making sure that everything is done with intent. I think that's the issue. The fact that everything being done with intent and making sure that you've got these guiding stars, right? Like tactical, like pillars of design. And then everything, even things that are boutique and weird and one-off, they feel like they belong to the system because they're pointing in the same direction as everything else. So that makes sense. If you ever try to go back and play like AD&D, like classic real AD&D, everything's pointing in different directions, and it feels like mechanics stolen from 18 different games all smooshed into the same thing. At the time, we didn't know any better, but that's, a lot's happened in the last 50 years. I said done, maybe Intelligent Dice, not out. It's on Twitch. It's Noah Kunin. I don't save the VODs, and the VODs are automatically deleted after 2 months. I don't save the VODs because if I did, then people would watch them. And I like streaming on Twitch because there's nobody there. Like, I don't know how many people are watching right now, but it's definitely more than would show up if I were on Twitch. Chill Halverson, have we thought about introducing the Cosmic Die to a specific class? We're aware of the possibility. I don't know that we know of a class that would use it yet. Maybe if we did a Timescape RPG, which would be great. Any thoughts on the new Superman movie? I really liked everything about it, and until there was a fight scene, and every time there was a fight scene, I felt like I could just get up and go get some popcorn if I wanted, and come back when it was over, and I wouldn't miss anything. It's just a bunch of CG nonsense, right? I felt the same way about all the superhero movies, basically, starting with the Thanos one, where each there's like 5 of these mood ring stones, and every single one of them has the power to rewrite universes. They just give them different names and different flavors, and I'm like, well, now what they all do is they all do the same thing, which is they have the CG power, where they can just do whatever the people working on it thought would be fun in that moment. And I'm like, none of this has any weight to it. I mean, like, narrative weight to it. I don't care. And I got really down watching the CG. I was like, okay. And then it would be over, and I'd be like, yay. And people, every time I say that, people are like, what about this one? And I'm like, yeah, even that one. Wait, even this one? Yep, even that one. Any plans for Kingdoms and Warfare style system in the future? No. I think a lot about this stuff, but Kingdoms and Warfare never got where I thought it needed to be. I think it's really good, by the way. People love the warfare system. Our testers went ape over it because it's basically a self-consistent game on its own. But I think in order to really deliver on that fantasy, you need a setting that is designed for those rules. You need a hex crawl setting where every hex tells you what resources are in it, and there are clear boundaries, so that managing a barony of 6 hexes is a mechanically distinct experience from managing a duchy of 68, that kind of thing. And the notion of wizard resources and cleric resources and stuff like that, or whatever. You need a setting built for that, and then I think you can hit a home run with it. And our data indicates that only about 30% of people, now I'm blanking, is it 70% of people roll their own, according to our Patreon surveys, about 70% of people make their own unique world, about that, which means all campaign settings you've ever thought of or heard of, including Orden and the Timescape, are competing for that 30%. right? And so obviously pre-made settings aren't that big a deal. They don't make that much money. They don't. Another way of putting it is they don't attract that big an audience because most people roll their own. Most people roll their own, and I'm sure those people are like, well, I don't run in the Forgotten Realms, but I stole this, that, and the other thing to save me some work, right? And so it might seem Forgotten Realms inflected to an outsider, but that person thinks, no, that's my world. I just stole this, that, and the other thing from these worlds or whatever. And so the idea of doing something like we thought many times about making a future Vasloria product that was that, right? Making it a lot more like Birthright. But I felt like that's not Draw Steel. Draw Steel is not about micromanaging anything. You know, it's about heroism. It's about adventure. It's about really wild things. It's about cinematic moments. And so if we were going to do something like another type of RPG that's more a 1970s style game, then maybe something like that would be appropriate. But ultimately, we think a lot about war. Crack the Sun has a giant army of hobgoblins attacking Dalrath, and you have to beat that army. But you're going to do it cinematically. You're going to do it more like the Battle of Helm's Deep or the Battle of Pelennor Fields, where there's the battle for the East Gate, the battle for the West Gate, you know, the battle in the sewers, right? The sappers at the wall, and it's an encounter. But we think the thing that's going to make that feel like a war is that there's going to be special warfare events that happen on certain turns, not rounds, because battles don't last. That's another thing about Draw Steel that everybody's learning, is that battles don't last that long, right? Thank God. 4 rounds is a long battle, right? Most battles take about 2.5 rounds, in which everybody's taking turns. So there's probably a future version of Draw Steel where turns are an important clock. And we got really close to that in development, but it was just too late. We came up with the idea too late. The idea that there might be a spell that the Elementalist has that does damage over time, but it ticks every turn? Are you kidding me? Every turn? I go, ow. The monsters go, ow. Anna goes, ow, are you kidding me? We have to solve this now, right? And that really seemed like, oh, this is a very fertile area, but it was like, okay, but it's April. It's April of 2025. It's pencils down, folks. So one of the things we're looking forward to in Crack the Sun is that classic MCDM bullshit where you have to go in the sandbox zone, which is Act 2, and you have to go talk to the goal. You got to talk to the dwarves, talk to the elves, talk to the orcs, and see if you can get them on your side. See if you can get them to help stop their internal squabbling and band together to stop this army of hobgoblins. And every one of these factions that you get on your side is going to contribute a special event to the battle. And the hobgoblins have their own list of events, and you can deny them stuff, right? You can be like, we got to take out this bridge, we got to take out this necromancer that is their ally. It's very like the Kingdoms and Warfare adventure. And every one of those their allies that they bring to the table that you didn't stop, they get a special event. Special events are things like, okay, it's turn 3 and you guys managed to get the elves on your side, so the Thorns, the high elven elite archer unit shows up at the battle, and they loose a volley of arrows, and it just devastates all the bad guys in that one moment, and then they're gone. That's it. That's a warfare event, right? And when it happens, you're like, fuck yeah, because you remember all the work you did. Remember that thorn dragon that we all almost died to because the elves were like, well, we'd love to give you the thorns, but they're busy in the north trying to deal with this thorn dragon that's trying to eat our people. Like, okay, we can take care of a thorn dragon for you. If we do that, yep, 100% you guys can have the thorns. And then some number of sessions later, the thorns show up in the battle. You're like, oh! And I think that is warfare in Draw Steel. It feels like a movie. It feels like, The Magnificent Seven or Zulu or something. What's up, Bulgaria? Hope you're doing well. Or Andor. Is there a limit to the number of classes? No, I don't think so. Why should there be? No. We thought really hard about the core classes, the core 9, the new 9, so to speak, and there might be so I think when you ask, is there a limit to the number of new classes? Another way of saying that is, will the ideas ever run out? Yes, the ideas could absolutely run out. We could absolutely get to the point where we feel like we've said everything we need to say with classes in Draw Steel, and the fact that other people are making third-party classes is fine, but we probably would look at those and go, yeah, I know why you made that class, but we don't think that's right from our point of view to add to the list. It's too boutique, or it's too weird, or it's covered by something else. You can make whatever you want, and from your point of view, this is super distinct and unique, but from our point of view, it's sort of like this other thing we already did. So I do think that you're going to exhaust the design space eventually, right? And I would guess, if I were going to guess right now, I would say based on how many ideas we were really excited by, and then how many ideas were like, well, that's interesting, but how would it work? That we've already had many discussions, huge lists of potential classes. I would guess there might only be about, including the Summoner and the Beast Heart, 9 more classes out there, before it starts to not be obvious what the 19th one would be, right? Summoner, Beast Heart, Art in Development, Acolyte, Operator, definitely. I was playing around with a Gunslinger class, that would kind of fill the Archer fantasy probably. But I don't think that's real yet. I only bring it up because I'm trying to come up with examples of things we've thought about. And there are other archetypes that we've thought about, but we're like, maybe something more like a classical wizard than the elementalist is. But the problem with that is no one agrees on what that means. And that's one of the reasons there isn't a D20 wizard. I think the D20 wizard is unique to D20 fantasy. And it's weird. And now I start to think kind of bad. It's bad that it exists. It has way too much utility value given, but that's a whole other discussion. Is Drawsteel a good first RPG? I don't know. I will tell you that we have seen people, including somebody in my chat last night who was a teacher and introduced Drawsteel to their middle school students, who said it was a huge hit. First RPG they ever played, and now they're obsessed with it. I think it just depends on the group and what I would say. I would say the Delian Tomb is probably, it would rank in the top 10 best ways to start getting into RPGs. I don't think 5th edition is a good place to start. I think 3rd edition was a good place to start because 5th edition's principal thrust, its principal goal was being recognizably D&D to multiple generations of grognards. And that's not a good design goal, folks. That's a brand. That's a brand goal. That's the brand speaking, right? And so I don't think that is a good. There are lots of other. Cthulhu, by the way, is a classic alternate path into the hobby. I've known lots of people, including lots of designers, where their first RPG was Call of Cthulhu. Are there thoughts on hybrid classes? Like a Skull being a Fury Troubadour hybrid? No, because our attitude is like, if you want a Fury who sings songs, those are a couple of titles probably that Fury has, right? Titles can go a long way toward giving. They're sort of, we originally thought, because we really liked them, we originally thought there might be prestige classes, and I loved the design of prestige classes. I thought they didn't go far enough with them. They would do all this weird stuff in 3rd edition where they wouldn't say you have to be a 3rd level. They had this really weird allergy to saying this is a prestige class for 3rd level paladins. They wouldn't do that, but what they would do is say you have to have smite evil, and that means you have to be a 3rd level paladin. And I'm like, why not just say I have to be a 3rd level paladin? What's going on here? And so we really thought that prestige classes could be a fun part of this game, but titles do most of that work. You can do almost anything with the title. iPalm93 says, I just want to say I love your writing style. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I really think it if all we cared about was getting good reviews, there would be a lot more weird art in this book and a lot less fiction, because I think people that review RPGs tend to like it when they open the book up and it's all written by one person, so it has this unique vision to it, and there's all this weird art. I know I say weird, I don't mean like ugly, I just mean distinct, unique, really unique art style. And often I think the reviewers like it when the author and the lead artist are the same person, right? And I love that stuff too, by the way. I love stuff like Lancer and Heart. I think those books are extraordinary, and it's hard to look at those books and not just want to start playing immediately. They're so vivid, so vividly realized. And I feel like we did the same thing, except instead of all that art, it's writing, it's prose. But I think prose takes a long time to read. And whereas art, it immediately works on you, right? It immediately works on you. So there's a lot of people who either just don't read any of the fiction, which we knew. That's one of the reasons we felt like we could get away with it, because we're like, well, a lot of people they're not going to be like, are there any mechanics here? No? Moving on. Great. no harm, no foul. But I'm really proud of the presence of the writing in the books. I was looking at Daggerheart. I'm like, oh, they did the same thing we did. Look, they did the same thing we did. They didn't say, here's an entire page full of David Attenborough Encyclopedia Britannica bullshit about elves. They didn't do that. Thank God. I'm so sick of that shit. They said, here's a paragraph about elves. Here's a column of dope ass abilities that elves get. And the rest, they did illustrations. We did fiction. Same thing, same approach, same attitude, just they used artists and we used writers. And I really like that. I love all the little sketches and in Daggerheart. I love the way they present their ancestries. I think it's great. So it's nice to hear people say they like the writing. In fact, I could, if you haven't seen the fiction I've written for the Summoner, we could read it on stream, but not. We have to do the Titancraft thing first. So maybe we should do that now. The Traveling Bard, so this is a great question. He said that making the tactician be a mundane fighting class on the level the other classes was difficult. How did we manage it? It's literally discipline, right? Because what does that mean? It means just because you have a cool idea of something the tactician could do, it takes discipline to say, no, hang on a minute. But how did they do it? And it's very easy to say, well, who cares how they did it? It's a game. It's a game. They did it because they're really good at tactics. I'm like, hang on a minute. How does really good at tactics result in this? If it's not obvious to me, it's definitely not going to be obvious to the players, right? And so you got to sit there and go, okay, how do we take this cool idea and kind of tamp down on it until we can understand how inspiring people, giving them orders, manipulating people could give this result? And it's just like any other creative endeavor. The most terrifying thing an artist can ever see is a blank canvas, especially if it's infinitely wide, right? Or a blank page. You need constraints in order to create. And so it's about living inside those constraints. And then if you live inside them, I think you can do extraordinary things. So that's the discipline. The discipline is don't just do it because it's neat, right? Yeah, lots of things are neat. If we did every class that way, then all the classes would feel the same. They would all be doing crazy, ridiculous stuff, and they would be the abilities would be fun, but it wouldn't be obvious why the elementalist can do this and that. Anyway, let me bring up the Titancraft. I promised we would look at Titancraft today. Oh no, I gotta do it in Edge, because Edge is the browser in which I have hardware acceleration turned on. I have it turned off in Chrome because for reasons that literally only have to do with streaming, right? You almost certainly have acceleration turned on in your thingy. Yeah, Juliet says, yeah, there was a quote. I think I mentioned this in a video. I was working on a video game and they hired a bunch of external writers, and then brilliantly, this tells you everything you need. This tells you everything you need to know about what it's like working in video games under a publisher, right? Which is just a way of spelling bank with a lot of extra letters. They hired a bunch of external writers and wouldn't let them play the game. Oh no, we're not allowed to play the game. What do you mean? Well, the boss says that we're not here to waste time. We're not here to play games. I'm like, how are you going to write this? How are you going to write these characters? They were just there because they would have been fired otherwise. Awesome. Oh, fair enough. Okay. Now I feel bad. Welcome aboard. And they would write just jokes for these characters that would be usually references to John Carpenter movies or something. I'm like, what is that doing in here? Have you ever watched a John Carpenter movie? He's not quoting the Marx Brothers. Why are you quoting? What are you doing? A very common phenomenon in video game writing. I never understood it. And my boss at one point, when I was in the process of axing some line of dialogue that one of these writers had written, he said, "But that's funny." And I paused and I said, yeah, but no more funny if we hit the guy in the face with a pie, right? That the goal isn't to be funny. The goal is to be funny in character. The goal is for the humor to come out of the, and as soon as I had said, by the way, he already wasn't listening. As soon as I said, yeah, but no funnier than it would be if we just hit him in the face with a pie, he went, he was like, he's right. That is true. Oh my God, that is true. There's lots of ways we could use the characters to be funny, but that is not the same as the characters being funny, right? And it's better when the characters are funny. So that's the reason I bring it up is that's the discipline. That's the discipline. Yes, you could absolutely just have your video game characters quote John Carpenter movies and people in the audience will go, right? That's fine. But that doesn't make them fall in love with the characters. That reminds them of their love of this other thing. What are you doing? We spend $300 million on this game. Why are you just quoting movies? Stop it, right? Understand the characters, understand the scenario, because humans and the human experience is inherently funny. Humans are inherently ridiculous, right? And you put them in any sufficiently tense situation and humor will naturally arise. And that is what makes people fall in love with the characters. But that takes discipline. Excuse me. Falchion RPG. Well, I mean, if you hang out with enough streamers, they might start talking about that. But if you want to stream, if you want to stream any kind of video, if you want to watch Star Trek: The Next Generation on Amazon Prime on Twitch, then you need to turn off hardware acceleration, or you literally they see a black screen. Meandering Mike says everything's still on track to ship books this month. If you mean in the next 30 days, yes. We can't get more specific about that. And the reason is we don't know when your we literally do not know when your books are going to ship until you tell us that you got a tracking number. We go, oh, good. Yay. Right? Because there's so many companies. You know, it's not like the PDF. The PDF, we think of the PDF as the product because that's the thing we have control over. We can get the PDF to you. Everything else is up to other people that we don't have any control over. It's like 13 different companies. We made a list. 13 different companies have to work together in order to make all this shit happen, right? Including stores and storefronts and third-party logistics and warehousing companies and trucking companies, and all this shit all has to work. And at every stage, we have no control, right? So they tell us this stuff's going to start shipping on Monday or whatever. We go, great. And then it's Thursday, and we're like, hey, has this stuff start shipping? And they're like, oh, no, sorry. A boat got, the price of oil got, oh, sorry, our boss got, and you're like, okay, well, then we wait. So people act as though we ship the books. We do not own a shipping company or a warehousing third-party logistics company. Even Hasbro doesn't do that, right? We have to rely on other people. And so we don't know. We know that they'll be shipping. It's incredibly stressful. It's one of the reasons we hate being in print, because it's something that where this is how companies go under, is dealing with these third-party companies. It's how TSR got in trouble, is that I made a whole video about this. But people just assume that we print the books somehow. We don't, obviously. And then we take them to your house somehow. And they'll do things like say, well, this is ridiculous. I ship things using media mail all the time. We're like, people just don't understand the realities of doing what we do at the level we do. Like, we can't, if we put our books in media mail envelopes, we'd get 30% returns, which would bankrupt the company, right? Because people would complain. I paid $70 for this book and it showed up and the corners were dinged. We know that because it's happened. We're like, what do you mean the corner's been dinged? And they show us like, what does that have to do with anything? It hasn't been dinged. It's a book. The corners are going to, over time, haven't shared like a textbook or anything else, but they are like, nope, like, okay, that means, anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Paco Alvarez, people ask me weird questions. If you're afraid of me saying no, why are you asking a question? What are you doing? If you don't ask a question in this chat, I sound like I'm a lot more serious now than I mean to be. Don't ask questions in this chat. If you're afraid, don't ask me for permission to do things, because I might accidentally read what you said and say no. Don't do that. Just go live your life. Why are we making PDFs look like print media? Well, I mean, if you get the Delian Tomb, it doesn't. The Delian Tomb does not have a 2-page spread layout. It's laid out for a single page. It's laid out for a single page PDF. So let's check out Titancraft. Let me get my. We played around with this last night. It was super cool. Let me make a new character. New humanoid. The part I was born to play. I want to kind of refresh, but no, that's fine. That's fine. Here, let's. So Titancraft is a website that you go to make 3D minis that you can either download the STL file and print on your own printer. In fact, I wonder if I should go get some of the. Yeah, stand by. Let me get. I think I could. The question is mostly, it won't. The problem is, you won't be able. No, it won't work. It won't work because my camera. I have to turn autofocus off. Otherwise, because of the lighting in here, the camera gets really confused as to where my face might be. And so autofocus is turned off, and I don't want to turn it back on because I'm not a camera nerd, and it gets really weird outcomes. But you got to trust me that the at least with the 3D printer we have, which I think is like an $800 3D printer, which obviously not everybody can afford. Probably most people can't afford one of those. But people. One of the things people like about hobbies is spending money on them. So we have about $800 3D printer here, and the quality of the minis that we were getting out of this from Titancraft were incredible. I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is as good as any mini I've seen. And just 3 years ago, that was not true. Terran Rex, yes, but I think it's a bit more advanced, and I think these guys' economic model is a little bit less annoying. Okay, so that's, yep, let me shrink me down a little bit. My head's big enough, I think we can agree. Actually, let me put it here. No, let me put it here. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so. Falchion RPG says, is it a resin bath printer or a filament printer? It's a Filabath res. It's a bath printing resin meant. It's a, I don't know, man. I just work here. I didn't buy it. I didn't use it. Jared Huss says that we have a resin printer. Jared Huss says we have I don't know who Jared Huss is. I don't know how he knows that, but he says it with authority. Does it have toxic fumes? It has toxic tombs. Wow. So this is a dude I already made. It took me about 8 seconds because he came with a lot of this stuff. I just put some goop on him. I put the little head. This is an MCDM dwarf, as you can see, and I already love this dude. But let's start again. This is a chest piece. So keep in mind that I should start again. So this is what Titancraft looks like. Actually, I think we might. Hang on a minute. Let me. I think we can do a little bit better here with the look and feel. Yeah. Here we go. And then let's just put me on top. There we go. So I'm going to obscure some of this, but now you guys have a little bit better idea of what's going on here. And this is a version of Titancraft that you do not have access to yet. This is the version they are trying to crowdfund right now, and I think they've already reached their goal. And I'm very happy to see that they seem to be doing pretty well. I think this is, like I said, we're very picky who we partner with. We don't just want to partner with people that are trying to make a buck off of our IP. We want to partner with people that we think actually genuinely like the game and want to join us on this crazy journey that we're on. And we actually also like people that do business the way we do. You'd be really surprised how many people want to do business with us. And we look at their business model and we're like, you guys are crazy. How are you ever going to be able to? And it's like, oh, okay, well, they don't pay people well and stuff like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So not everything, and the pitch for this crowdfunder is, it's Titancraft, which already exists and people love. It's Titancraft, but this is going to be Titancraft with all the MCDM nonsense in it. So this is just a pre-alpha prototype that we're looking at. Again, that you guys don't have access to yet, but I do. And the assumption is that there's going to be way more MCDM stuff in here. So let's make a new character. And I wouldn't mind making a new dwarf, but here you can see draw steel. There isn't a way right now to filter show me only draw steel stuff, and that's just an example of, well, they're working on it. That's what the crowdfunder's for. How many dwarves tall? All dwarves are 1 dwarf tall, as we learned in Thing of Stuff. What class was that guy? I think that guy was a censor, but I wasn't done making him yet. In the Dealing Tomb. I hope you folks enjoyed watching the Dealing Tomb. I had a blast in chat Thursday, hanging out in chat here on Matt Colville channel, watching the final episode of the Delian Tomb with everybody. Dale was there. It was so much fun. I forgot how much fun that adventure was. That is true. Heels LFW. That is 100% true. We love David Trenchworks. So we could make MCDM Dwarf. We can make MCDM High Elves. I want something that's a little bit visually distinct. Hakan are cool, but they're basically just really tall human dudes. Revenants are cool. Love those. Draconians, Dragon Knights, super cool. Revenants. Orcs, I love our orcs. And one of the things that we want to do a lot more of is feature more of our own original visual design. We worked so hard on the visual design of the orcs. We want to definitely see them all over the place. Do a war dog. I don't think, are there war dogs in here? I think they are, actually. I have seen war dog minis. But war dogs are, war dogs are monsters. So let's see. Let's actually look and see. Oh, it's a Wobolas. It's one of our guys. Do you want to load this scene or append it to the current one? I don't know. Replace existing. Oh my God, it's in color. Oh my God. Look at this. This, I believe, is this an Stephen Oakley original or a Nick Despain original? I don't remember anymore. I think it might be a Nick Despain original. This is what an MCDM demon looks like. Demon, and oh God, this is so cool. Can I, what happens if I, oh my God, I can aim his bow. Shut up. Ooh, can I make him shoot like, John Woo, Hong Kong style? Yes! Oh my God, I love this. Can I just print this now? Control P print, Control P print, print Control P, print Control P. So yeah, look at that. Look, oh, sorry. I know I'm gushing. I don't mean to. I'm trying to keep it together, man. Keep it together. Keep KIT, keep it together. Look at the souls trapped inside him. Y'all, look at the souls trapped inside of it. Now, you can print this, in which case, obviously, it won't be in color, right? You get your own 3D printer, or you can pay them to print it, and it still probably won't be in color. But if you don't have a 3D printer, you can just pay Titancraft, and they will send it to you. Hi, Vinny Curry says, Nick drew it on stream. Of course, I should have known. Signature Nick demon is, I think Nick does all our demons, frankly, is the glowing blue souls inside, which I thought was a brilliant little piece of visual design. But that's neither here nor there. Shut up. We're trying to look for war dogs. These are all the monsters that are in here. That's cool. It should say, like, I don't know if the war dogs are in here. I know they've made war dogs because I've shown them off. And I've watched them modeling them and everything. So I don't know, but it's probably just not, there's a bunch of stuff that this will do that they're working on that it's not in Titancraft yet, because that's what they're crowdfunding. Whoa. Look at that. Almost 30% of the way to Scarge. Is it subscription or pay per model to get the STL file? I don't know because we have a 3D printer. Our general manager and Jerry prints stuff out. So my understanding is that the way the pricing works, this isn't really answering your question, but it's telling you what I know, which is probably the best I can do for right now. And indeed, there may be Titancraft folks in chat who can answer. But their pricing model has more to do with, you buy an asset pack, and then you can make like unlimited things with those assets, right? You unlock the asset pack, and you can download infinite STLs. Yeah. So maybe if I keep scrolling, no, yeah. Yeah, there's tons of cool stuff in here. So I think we got to make a Time Raider, right? Let's see. Are they going to have 4 arms? If not, they will, I'm sure. Replace existing. Yep. Oh my God. Look at this dude. So now, one of the things you can do is, if you don't like an asset, like if you don't like this guy's jacket, you click on it and it takes you right to, oh, look at jackets. Can I give this guy a cloak? Oh, wow. That's cool. Those are pants. And Control Z works. Very nice. Let's see. What? Little pauldrons. What about this? Is that? Actually, I think actually, hang on, and I can do Wow, 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 wow. No. Let's give him some different hair. How much do they have? Anything that's really punk looking? I don't know. This would be bad. No, that's not what a Time Raider hair looks like. I mean, you know, I'm not. It was Mika Visser, yes. Oh. Yeah, there we go. Look at that guy. And this is dwarf hair. This is actual, I think this is MCDM a crystal hair mohawk, yep. But the Time Raiders don't have crystal hair. That's ridiculous. But let's give him a dope-ass mohawk. And we can give him interesting face stuff. Dwarves definitely look like they're made of stone. Let's give this guy. So let's pose this dude. Let's do a little bit of posing. Okay. Rotate. And then can I like? Okay. How do I? Is there a way? Oh, that's lol. I grab. Oh, now I wonder if I can rotate it out. This is one of those things. This is one of those things where this is one of those moments where I click something and something moves. I'm like, oh my god, I could spend hours on this, and it would probably take a little while to really, because this is a kind of classic 3D modeling rigging interface. I'm trying to figure out how to move. If he's jointed at the elbow, he might not be. Oh yeah, he absolutely is. There we go. And then, oh wow! That's cool. This is super cool. Yeah, you click on something and it doesn't. Yeah, there we go. It's hard to tell sometimes exactly which bit am I clicking on. What if I click away, and then I want to get this part of his supernature. Oh, that's his wrist. That's cool. And you can add a weapon if I want to. I could give him a laser sword. That would be cool. Do they have like... Oh, actually, hang on a minute. I can filter. I can say, show me sci-fi stuff. That, I could give him the sci-fi axe. That would be cool. But I want like a laser pistol. And it looks like they don't have laser pistols. But they gotta. Oh, here we go. Yep, I found him. Wow. They have, oh, what the F? They have the, oh, now we gotta do this, right? Yeah. He's got a laser blaster from the black hole. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you do that? Are you kidding? And can we get it? So can we pose him so he's pointing it straight ahead? This could take an hour. This is one of those things where I don't use 3D modeling software, so I don't know. Oh, that's close. Let's get down here and then let's. Oh yeah. Oh, fuck off. And now give me your forearm. Give it to me. Give me your forearm. Give it to me. No. Yeah. Eat hot laser. I want this guy. Oh, this is so cool. It's a maser blaster. What's a maser? No one knows. Shut up. Right? Look at that. How long did that take me? I know I'm supposed to be I'm supposed to be professional about this. This is a demo of some other company's software, but I just had an idea in my head. Let's get a Time Raider and let's give him a dope ass. And then see this. You can't stop here, right? You can't stop here. We could. I mean, you can completely change. He could be like down on one knee, right? And and he's got 4 arms. We can give him another. We can give him a sword. We can give him a sword in the other arm. I don't want to. Yeah. Shut up. Everybody be cool. Everybody be cool. So, looks like Peter Weller. He does kind of look like Peter Weller. Peter Weller's a really smart dude. That guy's a PhD in medieval Italian art. Excuse me, I need some agua. So I don't want to spend like 4,000 hours on this because I'm going to end up getting hyper focused on little niggling details, and that's not the point. The point is to just impress y'all with the fact that there's original MCDM nonsense in here. There's going to be more and more, presumably over time. That's what they're crowdfunding, and it is an incredibly powerful tool. And the 3D prints look great. Like, I've been very, very happy with them. And you can do stuff like you can change the dude's expression. Actually, you know what's better? Let's make a did I save my dwarf? I don't know. It's a lot easier. Hello, dwarf male. Replace. I don't know what add to scene does. I think add to scene will literally put a dwarf on this pedestal, which I don't want. But yep, that guy's gone forever, by the way. So this is an MCDM dwarf. He's got a sci-fi outfit. I think this is a generic sci-fi outfit. That's fine. It works. The stone dwarves often have this kind of sci-fi nonsense on them, including stuff like breathing tubes and shit. And they don't know what they're for. They're purely decorative. They have an idea what it's for, but they're wrong, right? Because the stone dwarves are the younger siblings of the steel dwarves, who are now extinct in Orden. And the steel dwarves were basically like high-tech dwarves. And the stone dwarves looked up to them as the kind of better version of themselves, and they emulate a lot of their dress. So their helmets and stuff often have these gewgaws on them that they're purely decorative, but are, because originally this was a space helmet, and that's where you would plug in that's where the radio transmitter would be. The stone dwarves don't know that, but their stuff has a lot of these gewgaws still on it, and you can see that this guy's got this guy's got a crystal beard, and this is a dude I was looking at before. I can give him hair, body, head, hair. So I could give him some crystal. Look at that. And if anybody from Titancraft's watching, you know what would be nice is to have a crystalline. So it would need to have a mohawk blade, like a knife blade mohawk, because then I could make Zur, who is the Death Captain Zur, who is my dwarven character in Cry Havoc. I'm just looking out for my nephew. And Jason made his dwarf mini Rockhue, which looked really cool, in Titancraft before they had all this. And he managed to get the crystal and stuff looking really good just because they have a D20 in here, just taking the D20 model in Titancraft and embedding it and scaling it and embedding it and rotating it dozens and dozens of times. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, every one of those is a little D20. And I'm like, this must have taken you hours. He's like, yep. But he was really happy with the result. And the reason I said, hey, let's take a look at this is Super Nature. We can make this dwarf look at us. Hello, Twitch people. Or even like roll his eyes. Come on, give me a break. What's down there? Are you wearing those shoes? Well, you're never. That's how World War I starts, which I think is incredible, right? And being able to like tilt. Can I Spock this motherfucker? I'm gonna see if I can Spock this asshole. Oh, I can give him the DreamWorks look. Squint. I can make him squint. Whoa. Isn't this? I mean, I suppose you could spend your weekend doing something else, but why? Why? I can make him sneer, sneery, sneery. One sneery, sneery, two sneery, sneery. What happens if you sneer with both lips? Is that not just going? Let's see what happens. That's called a smile, darling. Let's try sneering with only one lip. Let's give us some real Billy Idol bullshit. Yeah, make him a pirate dwarf. That's how you can tell he's a pirate. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is so cool. Like I could eat. Oh, and I love that they have little pre-made. Oh, that is pretty good. Smug, embarrassed, surprised. Oh. Oh, look at that. That's great. That is great. Sneering with both sides of your mouth is the Grinch's smile. Yes, which. Yes. Is it Absolutely Fabulous I'm thinking of? No, I'm thinking of her eating chips. So anyway, another thing you can do, by the way, which Jordy did for our Cry Havoc game. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to fuck around with this because I am not an artist and I don't know anything about color. But you can color the whole thing. You can color all sorts of bits of it, and there's lots of different colors. Like I can take his crystals and say I don't know if they have like, I could say they're like jade, right? I can say there you go. Look at that. Look how easy that was. And you could do the whole thing this way. Let's give him since he's got jade. Let's just decide he has jade hair, and you could then do it. It's built in. Give it a look at that, and now I can make a VTT token. I think you can do unlimited VTT tokens once you have the. I don't know how the pricing works. I don't know how their pricing works, but everybody in last night's chat, when people in chat who'd used Titancraft were talking about their pricing model, were like, "Are you serious? That's so much better than this other company." So yeah, you could make your own VTT tokens, no problem. Pose it however you want. Does it print in color? No, it does not print in color. That is as far as I know, the only way to print in color is a completely different methodology that's also super expensive. And in our experience, that stuff is very fragile. As in, you can make cool models, but they snap really easily. So, I'm not going to screw around. Janus Ivelios Kaminsky says, you only pay for the assets. Having them, you pay nothing. You do any number of variations. Yeah, I think you're basically just buying asset packs. And once you bought the asset pack, you've spent the money, you can do whatever you want with those asset packs. You can make STL files, as many as you want. You can make tokens, as many as you want. And there's probably, I don't know, I'm guessing some number of like base set that anybody can use. So all right, let's that's enough of that. That's Titancraft, folks. It's super cool. It's really difficult for me not to want to just spend the next 4 hours noodling with this, but it would be very bad bang for buck in terms of the quality of the stream. There's a lot more it can do. Me spending more time showing it to you would be diminishing returns just because I'm an expert on this stuff. That's another thing, by the way. I've literally only used this software for like a total of 20 minutes, and I was able to pose stuff, and I found that laser blaster. I didn't even know. I assumed, I'm like, there's got to be laser blasters here somewhere. And then they had the black hole laser blaster. I'm like, come on. So yeah, anyway. Hi the hence. Do we have a link to the Titancraft crowdfunder that we can post in here? I'm kind of surprised if no one else has already done it. Gimdal Stoudax, a longtime friend of the show, says, I made all the pre-gens from the Delian Tomb in Titancraft using the stuff they've already got. A+. Are there any concrete plans for the Illrigger? Not in the sense that you mean. Like, we already have Grace working on the iconic Illrigger, but the Illrigger is almost certainly just... Oh, Hive Indicator can't post links there. I bet I can. And in fact, Titancraft sent me some messages. Hang on a minute. They may be messaging me now. If so, that means I probably screwed up and did something wrong. Nope. Here we go. So they made a thing. They said, if tips for a good live stream, if you want to swap an item, don't waste time hunting for it in the menus, just click on your character's shirt and it will jump you to the shirt options. Some of the new assets can't be fully colored yet. Face and body patterns might be missing for Memenex and High Elves, but that's because it's new and they're still working on it. Not all paints and shirts play nicely with each other. They're working on that. There is a slider for how strong is your character, and the slider is called Doth Thou Hoist. Yeah, it's early access. If anybody asks what's the difference between this and Hero Forge, unlimited downloads for 3D printing and VTT, which is to say STL files and tokens. When you buy a character or an asset pack, you never have to buy those assets again. You can make unlimited free minis using those parts. Customize monsters in addition to humans. You saw me turn. I could have taken that demon that I loaded up, that MCDM demon, and swapped out all their nonsense with anything in Titancraft. Given him a human head. Giving him an elf head, giving him an insect head, give him a different weapon. But I love the fact that in just seconds I was able to tilt the bow sideways and give him the John Woo pose. And it said made by a small indie team. There were just 2 devs and a sculptor. Yeah, super cool. And keep in mind, there is a normal front end. There is a normal front end that is not in beta. The beta stuff is just the MCDM stuff and some other features. Yeah, draw steel minis on. Here we go. This is it. Nope, that is a. Can I tell you guys just how impressed I am with the draw steel community? Like, I gotta tell you guys the story. I told it on Twitch the other day. All right, so here, check this out. You made dead versions of the pre-gens. I love that. So that's the link for the Titancraft crowdfunder, and what the crowd and watch their video. The pitch is you're going to be able to make tons of cool MCDM stuff, and the crowdfunder gets you a bunch of that stuff for presumably free, because it's not free. You pledge to the crowdfunder. What's up, A Pro? I'm doing great. Your draw steel books will arrive eventually. Is there a plan to include more subclasses? There's not a plan for it. We just assume it will happen. Right now, we have a product roadmap that gets us out till the middle of next year. Let's say next October for Crack the Sun, probably, and that is taking up most of our production capacity. However, there's a bunch of we have other means of getting things done. For instance, putting it on the Patreon, and we just assume that eventually we will get around to making water mages and stuff like that. Actually, let me answer this Titancraft person's question, since I know the answer, and it's right here on my desktop somewhere, or at least it should be. Where is my Death Captain Zur? Here it is. That guy. Sorry. So yeah, I assume that those subclasses will get done, but right now we have bigger fish to fry, and at some point the Patreon's going to be evolving. It's always evolving, and there'll be more and more stuff that goes up there. So eventually we will put into production. You know, we have a small stable of developers that we like working with when it comes to getting design content done, and we have plans for each of them, and we can't really spin up more because we don't have the people here to manage them. So a big part of the crowdfunder, let me just tell you this right now, a big part of the December crowdfunder is finding out, is Draw still popular enough for us to hire another developer that just worries about the line of products and getting them done. Now that the core rules are done, James and I are working on other stuff. We still work on Draw Still all the time, but we're not working on inventing a new game anymore. And the difference between the inventing a new game team and the supporting an existing product line team is going to be very different. So we're going to be looking for somebody, a new developer, full-time employee, to manage all Draw Steel content moving forward. And that person will be in charge of figuring out, okay, when do we get to see a water mage? When do we get to see the air mage? When do we get to see the rot mage? When do we get to see the other? And I want to see that stuff as much as you guys do. But in the meantime, things like adventures and new classes, you know, like the summoner and the beast heart, we talked about those in the original crowdfunder. So people are like, hey, where are those? They're on the shirt, you know, or at least one of them is. Adventures, mostly adventures and classes and ancestries. Eight new ancestries, we think. 6 of them are basically done. 2 more we just kind of added. The operator is probably going to be next year. I think the operator and the acolyte will both come out next year, probably late next year. October-ish would be reasonable. The summoner is going to come out this year. I think the beast heart's going to come out this year. I mean, the summoner is already in open beta testing. Anybody can just download and play it. And Willie has gotten a ton of great feedback on that. Coast to coast, LA to Chicago. I mean, this song is one of the most remixed songs of all time, and I'm not surprised because the vocal performance on it is immaculate. Actually, talking about the summoner, have you folks heard the summoner? Have you folks heard or read the summoner fiction that I wrote? I wouldn't mind reading that on stream. Chicago, coast to coast, LA to Chicago. Oh, the Illrigger. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Traveling Bard, for following up when I got distracted. So we are pretty sure that Radio Wojak, yes, you have. Shut up. That okay, so people have already heard it, so I don't need to read it again. That's 4 guns. It is on Patreon, yes. So the Illrigger, we're pretty sure, is just going to be a type of censor, but still be its own class, if that makes sense. Because thinking about, well, all right, are we just going to add like 5 subclasses to the censor? That's crazy. And because they're all so uniquely themed, like censor subclasses and Illrigger subclasses are so different that we felt like even if the censor, the Illrigger is its own class that just uses wrath the way the censor does, and in the same way the censor does it, it has a judgment. We'd probably call them seals. There's probably gonna be a difference. So they'll probably both use wrath as their heroic resource, and they'll look similar if you blur your eyes, but as you focus in, you're like, oh, that's interesting. They both have something like the judgment, except the Illriggers is called a seal, and they both do things on similar keys, but they're different things. And so we think that it's just going to be like the mirror universe version of the censor, very, very similar to a censor, but its own class with its own subclasses. We just have no idea. We don't know. We have no idea when it's going to happen. We have no idea when we're going to put the Illrigger in production. I think one of the reasons it's on the back burner, as far back as it is because you already have the censor. So we don't really, like, if you want to play an Illrigger, make a censor and say, I belong to the Order of Desolation. That's it. That's simple. So, Domo Dato, there's two classes. Like the Summoner uses Essence. The Summoner uses Essence. They just do different things with it. Why? Because it made sense to us. Like there's nothing that says that the resources have to be literally unique. You can't trade them back and forth. But yeah, the Summoner is using Essence to pull these soulless entities from other realms. The Beast Heart uses Ferocity, just like the Fury does, because they're basically doing the same thing, right? So why would they have their own unique? To me, it would be weirder that they would be different when they're basically doing the same thing. Yeah, they're both using Ferocity. Call it Ferocity. The Illrigger is probably going to use Wrath, but it won't be judging. It'll be putting seals on enemies. We have design for Strongholds rules done by the inestimable Sadie Lowry, whose design we really like, by the way. And we just don't know what product it's going to go into. So it's sort of on the back. It's not sort of. It's on the back burner right now. Well, they're all, Spamatron, it's a good question. The Elementalists going to have 7 subclasses, but they're all thematically related, right? These are the 7 elements. Whereas adding the Illrigger subclasses to the Censor, it would look like what it is. It would look like a bunch of subclasses from another class invaded it. You'd be like, what? Why are these both in the same class? Like, so that's important to us. It has a lot to do with where the fantasy and the game design intersect. So is that it, folks? Is that the end of the stream? How long have I been streaming? Over an hour, over 90 minutes. Will tariffs affect shipping to Canada? Lots of things can affect. Sure, yeah. So why not? You got anything else? You got closed borders. You got import duties. You got shipping handling. There's lots of things. There's lots of things that, like, there's a giant cold fire sun. There's a giant list of things that the price of oil goes up. There's tons of things that can make shipping into any country fluctuate wildly. It's like, it depends on where. Do you live on that one island in the middle of a lake in Canada? Then guess what? It costs even more to ship to you. There's tons of stuff. Yes. William Harris says, I will be playing with Titancraft for the next few hours. I thought I would read some stuff on stream because it's fun. I enjoy just the act of reading out loud. I remember when my significant other and I first collided into each other, and we were kids, and I read an entire fantasy series to her over the phone. We would spend, like, the first time we called each other, we spent 11 hours on the phone that day, breaking only for dinner. And I remember telling my one of my college philosophy professors about this, and he went, how sickeningly romantic. And so I just like reading out loud. It's a fun thing for me. It kind of but I got to have a reason to do it. I got to have something to share with people, and I feel like everybody's already heard all my shit. So so I think you folks, if you're here in this chat, typically that means you already are kind of a power user. So you already know about what we're working on for Draw Steel. We're putting like everything behind it. We're working on 2 classes, the Summoner and the Beast Heart, and they're both, I would say, the Summoner is almost done. The Beast Heart is really, really far along. It will probably be going to the Patreon soon. The Operator, I don't know, Daniel Friedman, I don't know what the Operator is. I think the Operator might manage heat. We'll see, I don't know. So we're working on the Operator, which you can already play. It's an open beta. The Beast Heart, we're working on 6 ancestries. The ancestries are 6 new ancestries, and they are fairies, which Grace has shown me roughs. You can of the 2 heroic fairies, and they were supposed to be 1, and she's like, okay, I've drawn 2, which one do you guys like? And I was like, I like both of them. And our art director was like, yeah, we should just do both of these. We should just do 2 heroic fairy characters to show the variation. And so you're gonna have fairies, goblins, Raiden Whites, rat folk. These are playable ancestries. I don't know if Raiden Whites have the ability to pants people the way the monster Raiden Whites do. Gnomes is something we thought a lot about. We have thought a lot about gnomes, and I think we have some really good ideas for visual design for gnomes that makes them a little bit more unique than what you might expect. And I've already written some fun gnome nonsense for the write-up. So that's 4. And what's the other one that isn't the special one? Oh, the Shadow Elves. Oh yeah, the Shadow Elves are awesome. Oh my God. The Shadow Elves are so cool. And we had a whole meeting. I love that we get to do this, folks. And it's only because you support us. It is literally the only reason we can do stuff like what I'm about to say is because people seem to really like Draw Steel, and they are willing to do things like spend money on it and buy it. We had a whole meeting about what Shadow Elf culture is about, what their gods are like. And because we want to make sure, like, these new ancestries are probably going to be in their own product in one sense or another, so they don't have to follow the constraints of the core rules. In the core rules, an ancestry write-up is a 2-page spread. Well, guess what, folks? There's a lot more to talk about than just 2 pages, much of which is art, right? Well, in an ancestry product, we can go to 4 pages or 6 pages. Great. You know, you could do a whole book just on high elves if you wanted to. Sure, yeah. But 6 pages for ancestries is great. It means we can get into a lot more stuff like their history and their sociology. And so let's include gods and saints, or gods and heroes, or whatever. And so we talked about what the Shadow Elf gods are like. And I have not written up any Shadow Elf gods, but that was a really, really cool, interesting meeting where the entire design team, plus Gertz, are all brainstorming what Shadow Elf gods are about. And we were talking about, like, I think they worship celestials. They live in Equinox. And Equinox is an elf world like Arcadia, but Val's not there. And so there's a bunch of Twilight celestials still alive. It's not like Orden, where there's only a couple celestials left and you got to know where to look for them. Nope, there's a bunch of Twilight celestials here. These are demigod elves, right? And they're like 12 feet tall, and they're like, you know, yeah, they're way more powerful than a normal everyday elf. There's a bunch of Twilight celestials still hanging around, and those are their gods. And there's going to be a bunch of them. We're going to talk about them, and they worship them and get power from them, just like anybody else does. But the thing with the Twilight celestials is they are, Willie had an interesting term for it. They're going mad. They're decorporeal. Their world is disintegrating. Equinox is a dying world, right? And there's a moment in the example I used was there's a scene in a happily obscure movie called Fantastic Planet. It's a French animated film from the late 60s in which these aliens, and each of these aliens is like 300 feet tall. These aliens are like meditating, and as they meditate, and this crazy French psych rock music is playing, as they're meditating, their bodies, just imagine a bunch of people sitting on a bench, basically, right? Just like basically naked humanoids sitting on a bench. And as the music plays, their edges start to smear and eventually smear together. So there's this visual version of their blending their minds and their identities together. And then one of their daughters shows up playing with a pet, and it distracts their meditation. They all go, and they snap back into being instead of being smeared out in different colors. And like, that's what a twilight celestial looks like normally, because they're discorporeating. They're whatever the opposite of subliming is. They're disintegrating essentially over centuries, and they're going mad. But they can if the situations, if there's enough stress or it's important or it's dangerous, they can go and they can pull themselves back together and try to be a normal demigod again for a moment. And we had the idea that because the shadow elves are like darkness and light in one, that each of these twilight celestials has its original version, which holds some virtue that I associate, Saint Genevieve with this portfolio. But they've gone mad, and so there's the good version of it and the evil version of it, and they have both of them. When they serve one of these twilight celestials as a censor, or just as a normal person who venerates the gods, just like how many people out there aren't priests but wear rosaries and have have Bibles in their house, but they're not a priest. Same thing. They have this like devil and angel on their shoulders, right? They have the old version of that Twilight Celestial, which is the not insane and probably good one, but they also have the modern version that's gone mad and rewards people who do the dark version of this. And that idea of like darkness and light in one, and that's how they worship. I'm like, that's super unique. That is super cool. I love that idea. I want to write those, and that's why we had to have a meeting, because I could just make this shit up, but I would not have made that up. I would have spent at least days and maybe like 2 weeks just thinking about shadow elf gods and not coming to that kind of conclusion. And I would be like, guys, I need help. Which has happened in the past. And that's why we had a meeting first this time. And it was a really fruitful, productive meeting. And now I am excited to go write those gods. And we get to do that because you guys support us and you buy Draw Steel. Do they have different domains in Equinox? Sure, I think domains are universal. Like the war domain, the death domain, the love domain, the nature sun, these are universal concepts. It's just how are they instantiated in that world? Excuse me. So, fairies, goblins, raiden whites, gnomes, shadow elves, and the Scarge. But probably not the. I have an unreasonable amount of affection for the definite article. But Scarge are dragonfly folk, and they're full-size humanoid, 6 foot tall, normal-sized humanoids, and they have compound eyes, I think, and they have huge dragonfly wings. And there's a couple of different. They'll be, with fairies especially, we'll have a couple of different flying ancestries, or ancestries that can have wings, like dragon folk. The dragon knights, devils can have wings, but they can't natively fly, I don't think. Whereas I think fairies and Scarge can natively fly. The difference is when fairies fly, because they're just these little butterfly people, when fairies fly, there's like an upper limit, I think, to how high they can go, or at the end of their turn, they have to come down to within 2 or 3 squares of the ground or whatever. Willie has it all worked out. But the dragonfly folk, I don't think there's any limit into how they can fly. They are the air superiority class ancestry. And we imagine them as being like a combination of that World War I flyboy archetype and the original 7 Mercury astronauts from The Right Stuff, just really cocky and full of themselves, but also kind of charming, charming and naive and kind of like, oh shucks, let's go get them, and that's fun. I'm looking forward to writing that. That's an archetype we don't see a lot in fiction. And I think also like they're sort of like the reverse of the Hawk Lords. They're good guys, and they don't like the Shadow Elf bad guys. And there's a scene I wrote with this old gnome who is talking about how dangerous things are getting, right? And that he says now that the Shadow Elves have the sky swords, the Scarge won't be the kings of the air anymore. And this old gnome's daughter is like, but father, you made the sky swords. And he's like, yes, I did, to save my people, for my sins, because the shadow elves said that they would kill you all otherwise. He doesn't say that, but like, for my sins, I gave it to them, right? They threatened my village, they threatened my family. And so, yeah, I gave, we don't know what sky swords are, but you can imagine what they are, right? Because the shadow elves don't like the fact that the Scarge own the air, right? And we think maybe the Scarge cities are on floating, flying lily pads with like tendrils off of them. They're dragonfly folk, right? Anyway, the Hive Indicator, the Scarge and gnomes and the Shadow Elves are all native to Equinox. Gnomes, you can find gnomes in Orden if you know where to look, but gnomes are not native to Orden. They are a native species of Equinox, like Solvi. Solvi knows. Brofius, I think I knew that. No, it does not. I know who they are. Isn't that the band, one of the bands that itinerant musical Axeman gunslinger Johnny Marr was in for a little while, for a hot minute? Maybe King Kirk. I think they're more single-seater. But, I promised I'd show you guys the cover of Crack the Sun. So, they call themselves, I remember sending that to, if Shorty's watching, sending that to Alex when he was joining the Navy. And he was like, what? When I just showed him the clip, they call themselves aviators. They say they're better than pilots. He goes, what is that from? And of course, he loved the right stuff. That's sort of where Mimnos started. So the Craft the Sun cover, where can I find? Where can I find we're playing Draw Steel on Wednesdays. Matt O'Driscoll ran for us. That was the deal. I said I will run again because I'd gotten kind of burned out on, I actually hadn't gotten burned out on running RPGs for my friends. I had just I did that for 35 years, and I have other things to do, like writing novels and making games, and I gotta be careful how I spend my free time, otherwise some of these things never get done. But I said I'll do it, and I wanted to do it. I was looking forward to doing it if Matt O'Driscoll will trade off with me, so I can run an adventure, take a break, run an adventure, take a break. He's like, fuck yeah, I'll do it. And so we've done that. I ran the Bleeding Tree adventure, which we're going to do a whole video about the lessons I learned designing and running my first original Draw Steel adventure from scratch. Super fun, by the way. Really happy with it. The players seemed to really like it. It was a mystery. It was not like a murder mystery, but a what is going on mystery. And those are always tricky, but everything fell into place. The players put together the clues when they should have put together the clues, which was awesome. And then Matt O'Driscoll started running. He's run one session. He's got at least one more in him, and then he might need a break. He's never run before, never run anything before. And he was a natural. It was so much fun watching him and Lindsay role play off each other and him really get into character and watching him kind of roll with the punches and stuff. So good. Mosquito Folk, unfortunately, for the Dragonfly people who would probably love that, no. God, there's so much cool art. Look at the summoner art that we were oh my God. What, did I not post the Craft the Sun? I guess I didn't. Okay, so Supernature. Let me find the art channel. How are you folks feeling, by the way? How's this chat going? I mean, Traveling Bard, that's up to you. I made my Sumat poll. I no longer remember which one's mine and which one's Matt's, but maybe mine is Sumat poll. I made my Sumat poll sound like Bob and Doug McKenzie. I'm going to have to scroll for a while. There's the new fairies, summoner art. Wow, the body snatcher for the Dark Heart of the Wood. That is awesome. That's an awesome looking monster. Here we go. Which one do I want to show? Yeah, it's gonna be that one. So this is the cover. This is not it's a rough. It is technically a rough, but to me, it's finished. I'm like, that's done. Ship that. This is gonna be the cover for Crack the Sun. Where's my OBS? Here, let me. You stay here. And I'll take me out of here. There we go. So this is the cover for the super adventure that we are currently working on, but we don't know whether it will be in this upcoming crowdfunder. Check that out. And that tells you everything you need to know about this adventure. No, it doesn't. What do you mean? It's an adventure about an army of hobgoblins attacking Galrath. And what exactly here? What? And it worked. It worked. I was so happy because Matt O'Driscoll, I showed this to Matt O'Driscoll live, and he was like, mate, do you go to the sun? And I'm like, yeah, bro. Yeah. It's a world like any other. And he goes, that's fucking, he's on a spaceship. I'm like, yeah, bro. Yeah. I mean, we're not 100% sure you can take a spaceship to get there, but we have the timescape. We have the timescape, so you absolutely can, right? Just like in D&D, there are spaceships in D&D, and there have been for 50 years. So when people are like, well, I'm like, whatever, bro. I don't disagree, but the game you're playing already has spaceships in it. But then he kept looking, and he was like, oh my God. He's like, these are cities. And I'm like, yeah, the sunspots are cities, right? They're not just, because it's a world, right? Anyway, yeah, I was very excited by it. You'll see, we could literally spend the next hour just looking at art you folks haven't seen yet. But we're not going to do that because I'm going to save it for the crowdfunder in December, where we bring, so yeah, we're doing 6 Ancestries, the Summoner, the Beast Heart, and a bunch of adventures. So there's the Fall of Black Bottom, which is a new first level adventure. The Delian Tomb is a first level adventure, but it's for people who are completely new to draw steel. And it literally walks you step by step through your first session, so you don't have to read anything to get started. It just says, it's like a board game. Step 1, do this. Step 1, do that, right? Actually, a lot of board games don't have really good instructions. A lot of board games sort of expect you to have to read the whole rule book in order to start playing, and I hate that. I'm like, why are you doing this? Just say, all right, step 1, set this up. Just like, Masquerade. Step 1, pass these things out. Step 2, look at your roll, So that's how we did the Delian Tomb. Fall of Black Bottom doesn't have any tutorialization in it at all. It assumes everybody knows how to play, and it is a high octane. The Delian Tomb is a classic D20 fantasy RPG, normal nonsense. Delian Tomb, everything you would expect if you took that original Delian Tomb adventure and just said, but what happens next? There's goblins, you're going to fight them. There's all sorts of stuff like that. Oh, there's a necromancer, there's some orcs. It's got all that stuff in it. I love that stuff. But the Fall of Black Bottom, which is basically the adventure version of the first episode of the Chain of Acheron, the Fall of Black Bottom is a high octane draw steel adventure for first level players. It'll take you from first to, it might have more than one level in it. We're working on 2 second level quests. Quests are short, punchy, 5 or 6 victories. That's it. So you could play it in 1 session or 2 sessions probably. And yeah, there's a dragon in the woods. Go kill it. Okay, sure. Got it. A+. Does what it says on the tin. That's the Dark Heart of the Wood. There's another one that's a gnoll adventure where you fight a rampaging army of gnolls, and it's called the Red Road. It's another quest, just 5 or 6 victories, in and out. Simple setup, simple pitch, does what it says on the tin. Then we're working on another adventure, which is the 3rd level adventure, which is unlike any adventure I would say most people have ever played before. This is another high octane draw steel adventure, and that is The Condemned. And this is an adventure where you have to make a new character. You make a character just for this 3rd level adventure, because your character in The Condemned is a draw steel hero who is a criminal convicted and sentenced to death. And you're in Capital. You're in the Stays, which is the big Manhattan-style island off the very, very close to the city. And the head of House Verona's intelligence directorate shows up and offers you a deal. He has talked to the Castellan, who is going to hang you tomorrow morning, and you can either take this mission for Ottavio de Caserta, or you can stay here and have a nice day tomorrow. So it's the only problem, of course, is the mission he's going to give you is suicide. And I don't want to reveal too much about this adventure because it's so crazy. You have war dog collars on, so that if you misbehave, your head explodes. So you can make an unrepentantly evil if you wanted to. You can make a whole variety. There's any number of reasons your character might be sentenced to death. Maybe you're a political prisoner. Maybe you were accused of a crime you didn't commit. Maybe you did the wrong thing. Maybe you're guilty, but you had reasons. It's up to you. And this adventure is really... Jason, our art director, was like, I was starting to get tired of fantasy nonsense. He's not a huge fan of fantasy. He loves science fiction. I was kind of getting tired after 5 years or whatever of fantasy nonsense. And then I read the outline for The Condemned. I'm like, I want to art direct this myself. This is the coolest adventure. And I'm like, yeah, you are on a suicide mission. Five anti-heroes, 5 dark heroes on a mission to stop Ajax from from unlocking the use, gaining the power of a specific artifact. And it's one of those things where, you know, if he can figure out how to use this, he's going to win. He might win anyway, but he'll definitely learn. So you have to go get that thing and bring it back and deny him access to it, which means the condemned have to go to the Chrysopolis. They have to go to Ajax's floating super fortress and infiltrate it and fight. That's the War Dog adventure. War Dogs fucking everywhere, and find a way back. And it's so cool. It's on a beat by beat basis. I'm like, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Anyway, I believe that's Jordy's adventure. It was his pitch, and it was one of the most popular adventures that we took. We you know, once per product cycle, which is probably like 18 months, we go to our patrons and we say, okay, these are all the things we're thinking about. What are you folks most interested in? And the Condemned was among the most, they were like, that sounds fucking amazing. Go to the Chrysopolis, get this thing, bring it back. It is very kind of like Rogue One. If they didn't die at the end, well, your characters might die, and it could always happen. It's always on offer. And so yeah, a bunch of those are the adventures, those are the ancestries, those are the classes. That's all stuff we're bringing to crowdfunding in December. Do you folks want this? How many of you folks want this? And there'll be deluxe versions of things and normal versions of things, and you know, PDF only versions of things. And Crack the Sun might be in there. We don't know. Right now it seems like we might be able to pull it off, but we might learn things that make it go, no, it needs to be its own thing. Lobster Shoes, I think we're almost done. Thanks for watching, folks. We played around with the Titancraft software, which is incredibly cool. I'm not a pro at it. I'm just getting started with it. But that's a selling point, frankly, is the fact that I've only spent 20 minutes playing with Titancraft, and that was last night. And so being able to, like, I want to give this Time Raider a laser pistol and have him be pointing at the thing, and I was like, oh, there you go, is amazing. It is so cool. I wish I had it when I was 15. Matthias Havers, this is Space Disco Mix 4. So this is probably Lindstrom. I don't know what the actual track is. I don't know when we will see each other next. Maybe later today on Twitch. Maybe some modular nonsense. I almost busted out the modular on this stream. But it's awesome seeing a bunch of people whose names I recognize in chat. It's awesome seeing a bunch of new people that I don't know. I'm super happy that people are engaging with Draw Steel in the way we intended. Like, they're taking the game on its own merits, and as a result, it is doing incredibly well. It's certainly the best product we've ever made, the most successful product we've ever made by a long margin, and we hope that it's going to have a long life. But that's up to you folks. It's up to is there an audience for this stuff for the future? So thanks for watching, everybody. We will be here on YouTube whenever the next video is. I don't know. I've got a lot of ideas for videos, and a bunch of different scripts. I think the next video is going to be just about community, about building online communities, and it's not going to be for most people. This isn't for the critics. I don't mean that. I mean, like, it's explicitly a video for people who are trying to do what MCDM does. And it's going to cover a lot of ground. It's going to cover moderation. It's going to cover things like price points for your products, right? It's going to cover a lot, and that doesn't have anything to do with Draw Steel. Doesn't have anything to do with D&D. So it's probably not going to get that many views at the end of the day. But I think the kind of person that if the right people watch it and the message gets out, it could make a big difference. I'm going to do a video that might just be improvised, a rare direct-to-camera, no script interview where I talk about what I learned running Draw Steel. Some of the lessons are universal. Some of them are unique to that adventure or unique to Draw Steel. I might throw in advice based on what I'm seeing Matt O'Driscoll doing. You know, Matt O'Driscoll is encountering the hated enemy of all directors, which is annoying questions. What do you mean? What do you mean they've been gone for 3 days? How is it possible that blah 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 blah? And you're like, oh shit. And I don't know if I have any advice there, though. It's just a thing you got to put up with and learn to deal with. We're going to do an ancestries video where we talk about the draw steel ancestries. You're not going to get that for a little while. I got a couple other videos in the pike before then. And I want to do more stuff about, like, I want to start doing videos about all the stuff. I'm more like tastemaker videos where I share the books and I'm reading and movies I'm watching and stuff like that. And because we do a lot of that on Twitch and people really like it for obvious reasons. Like, you have basically infinite access to the entire history of human art and creativity. And as a result, what you need is people to say, this is the thing I read or watched and thought was super cool. Thought it was super cool, and here's why you might like it. I don't know you. Morweelanth just ran the Delian Tomb for 7 people. Some first-time RPG players. Was a hit. We did our best, folks. We did our best, and you folks are doing your best. I really feel that. I really feel as though the Draw Steel community is doing with this game what we hoped people would, and it is spreading, and new people are coming on board all the time. Marcus Trincia, really soon. I can't, we're at the stage right now where I can't really talk about when what shipping is going to happen where, because we don't know until you get a tracking number, right? And what happens is, let's imagine something shipped today. Let's imagine something shipped today. And I went, well, shipping has already started, blah, blah, blah. But it was like 2 books went to somebody in Virginia as a test or whatever. Then all of a sudden, people start getting, our support department starts getting hundreds of emails from people saying, I heard shipping started. And it's like, well, okay, and what do you want? Yes. Well, where's mine? Well, we don't know. We don't know. We have no idea on a case-by-case basis. Your product might, even though somebody we've shipped something somewhere, it can be literally months. Like, certainly if you order the Ajax edition, you might not get your books until like December. Yeah, because of all the shit that has to go in them. There's a bunch of stuff happening there. So shipping is going to be, you will know when shipping starts, when you get a tracking number. Well, here's the thing. When you say, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything, the thing that you would miss is not an announcement from us. The thing that you would miss is the email that says, here's your tracking number. And even if you don't get that email, you don't need to respond to that email, right? The thing will just show up at your house. So the thing that you would miss is you saw a box on the porch and you threw it away. Yep, you missed it. Yeah, shipping is crazy unpredictable, and we don't have really anything to do with it. I don't think people understand that. I don't know why they don't understand it. It's the most obvious thing in the world. We don't own a shipping company. We don't own a third-party logistics company. We don't own any of this stuff, right? So we pay these people, and they do their best, and eventually you get your books. But the answer is very, very, very soon. Maximally soon. Until next time, folks, thanks for watching. Be seeing you.